another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. Today, we are going to do half of a mock draft because it's going to take way too long. We already know in advance. So, the way we're going to do this...
We'll get to pick 18. How about that's a bold prediction?
We'll get to pick 18 apparently.
We get to pick 18.
So it's half, but we're gonna go to pick 36 for some reason, and then at that point, why not go to pick 39?
We're gonna pick. If you're a Rams fan, you're gonna be the first team left off before the part 2 starts. So just go into it knowing that. But who knows who trades up? So no matter what team you're a fan of, you have to listen to the whole thing.
We had 15 trades happen.
Yes. No. Yes. The entire the back half and the first half actually flipped because there were so many trades.
We had one trade happen, but it took 15 teams.
Oh.
Well,
anyway,
the way we're doing
Chiefs
this
have
mock
Marvin
draft
Harrison.
the Chiefs have Marvin Harrison. Oh my God. The way we're doing this mock draft is we're going to come to a consensus on what we think will happen, as opposed to in the past we've done kind of our alternating. If we were the GM, what would we do? Today we're going to try and predict 100% accurately what is going to happen on draft night. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty well. I just got back from a bird watching trip. I was out for 2 hours before, out in the marshy holding ponds by the Denver airport, and it was honestly fire. There were a ton of ducks out there. Saw a bird that I've never seen before, a western grebe. So it was pretty sick out there this morning, and then I've been watching the NBA games, obviously. So I'm in a good mood. The weather's nice. Everything's looking up.
There you go.
Yeah, I've pretty much just been watching the playoffs myself. Don't have too much more to report than that.
Well, why don't we talk about the playoffs a little bit? You know?
Yeah, we had the 4 games yesterday, although I might prefer not to after I said the Suns would beat the Timberwolves, and it's not off to a good start.
Nah, it was so funny because someone even clipped the portion of the episode where Ben was like, yeah, the Suns gave the Timberwolves some problems earlier in the season with their shot making, and then they got absolutely crushed.
Yeah, then Devin Booker played an absolute disaster class with Jaden McDaniels guarding him, and KD was the best player on the court, but it didn't matter because Beal and Booker weren't really giving you anything, and that top defense is really no joke. And Ant Edwards, I was watching the second half, and I'm like, the Suns were down 10, and it's either Booker or Edwards is really going to turn it on here. And if Ant turns it on before Booker does, it's completely over. And then Ant hit some crazy step back, and then went on he went on this massive run, and I'm like, yep, he was the closer. He wasn't really doing anything crazy in the first half, but the Suns were down without Ant doing anything crazy. And then when he turned it on, they just completely pulled away. So I don't know who's guarding him, like you said, Matt. And Booker needs to be better. I still think that the shot making can be way better than it was game 1, and the Suns can win a couple, but it was not an inspiring showing game 1. And that usually means you're going to lose the series.
Yeah. I thought, if you're not getting the crazy shot making from those guys, it's going to be really tough to win as the Suns. I mean, outside of them, it's like Eric Gordon going out there and giving you 20 minutes. And Nurkic had a really, really bad game. And it just didn't seem like they were doing a great job of trying to, I don't know. I guess your plan maybe was to hopefully draw out Gobert and try to get him on an island. But when they tried that, it didn't work. He did a good job. So I like the Timberwolves for the same reasons I liked them before game 1. Now they've got a game.
Yeah, and also they got murdered on the offensive glass. The Suns did, which you can expect. The Timberwolves have that as their obvious advantage, and the Suns have the shot making. But the Timberwolves have the shot making advantage, and of course just the huge advantage on the glass, just offensive board after offensive board. It was pretty pitiful. So my concern levels are extremely high for Phoenix. But as far as the other games go, Knicks beat the 76ers. Embiid had one of the craziest plays that I've seen just from an emotional standpoint. The putback dunk off the backboard, and then it looked like he had the 1,000-yard soldier stare on the ground. I thought he tore it every muscle in his knee when I saw him looking like that, but he came back. What were your thoughts on that, Matt?
I honestly, I didn't want to tweet anything about it or be mean about it, but I thought that was like a heck of a summary of Embiid's career in one play.
Yeah.
Something really spectacular, and then he gets hurt at the end of it. I thought it was super commendable that he came back and kept playing, even with, the knee pretty obviously bothering him and affecting his play. Like, he couldn't step up and defend as much as he wanted to. There was a play, I think, right when he came back, in the third quarter, where I forget who on the Knicks goes to the rim, and he just kind of has to back up because he can't go and jump at it and be as physical as he wants to. But he kept him in that game. I mean, they were awful with him off the floor, and they were really great with him on the floor. But the whole series comes down to whether or not he can stay healthy. Outside of that, I thought the 76ers did pretty good. They sent a lot at Brunson, and it worked. And it's a shame that you couldn't make good on a road game where you get, a bad Brunson performance. Part of that's, the Embiid stuff. Part of that's they didn't come through, and part of it's the Knicks did a really good job, like Deuce McBride and all those guys. Josh Hart hit those.
Josh Hart, you send a lot at Brunson and you leave Josh Hart open, and that was not good at the end.
With no Randall, it's the questions like, all right, well, outside of Brunson, you don't have Randall. Who is getting buckets for you? That's the question that Philadelphia wants to make New York answer. And last game, their answer was it's going to be all the shooters making their shots and McBride. We'll see going forward. What were the other two games? Orlando, Cleveland. Orlando.
Pretty much how we expected.
How we expected. I still like Orlando. I don't think there's pressure on them to win a series. And they're a young team. Their best player is 21. So it's like, take everything I'm about to say with that big grain of salt. It's not really like doomsday for them or anything.
No.
But like, dude, they're not. It's going to be really tough to win this series.
Yeah, Cleveland does have the expectations. Like, at this point, you have to start mustering together some playoff wins, some series wins.
And they have to win this series. It'd be a disaster if they didn't against a team this young. Yeah. It's honestly like the same position that Cleveland was in last year. They go up against the Knicks. Their spacing isn't good enough. They get run off the floor. Now Orlando's going up against Cleveland, good defensive team. Their spacing's not good enough. And 83 points. Their half-court offense was just abysmal. Defensively, you can see all the pieces there, but they got to find the way to keep that defensive core and add shooting.
Yeah, I saw the main takeaway that I had was like just chill on Paulo, because after the game it was like low key Banchero is not impressive. And it's like, dog, he's playing Mobley and Jarrett Allen, and he has no help on offense at all. Like, he's going to be super inefficient, and maybe he'll always be a bit inefficient and a bit flawed. I'm not saying that he's going to be like some super duper star carrying the Magic someday, but I will say that like this is a matchup that he's not going to dominate. Like, no one on the Magic.
Team
we knew it going
built to, and he's 21. It's just a lot to have a big takeaway about Paulo. I think the number of players in NBA history who you could throw in this position in their second year and have them go and be efficient is very, very low. I'm high on his long-term upside.
What other game happened? It would have been in the West, right? It would have been Nuggets Lakers, which was close for a while.
I almost didn't stay up for it, but I said exactly this. I said exactly this about Russell. It's like, okay, cool during the Pelicans game, it worked. But if he's not hot, is he going to rein it in a little bit? No, he's not. I think the Lakers, when they get active and they're moving well on offense, they can be pretty good. But I think you can't trust Russell game to game. And then it feels like you throw away so many possessions. Anthony Davis, 4 threes taken. I mean, I genuinely just don't
Their
understand it at
formula,
all.
like where they put their resources for shots is just crazy to me consistently. And I remember after the game, Darvin Ham said, like, we're saving some adjustments for later in the series. It's like, bro,
make them now, man.
Make them now.
And
Win
like,
one game.
You have to
from
steal
there.
one on the road if you're the Lakers, and you get a bad Jamal Murray game, and you still can't get it done, man. It's not good. You needed to win this one. I felt like, I mean, you're already such a dog. I don't think they have an answer for Jokic, and I think defensively, it's not like
Rui
they have.
Hachimura, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Did you see that tweet last night?
Yeah, I did. They don't have much for a Murray, honestly. I thought he just had a bad night.
LeBron seemed to lose gas as the game went on.
Yeah, that's the other thing, dude.
He's 40, man.
He's just he's 40. He just doesn't have it in him to go and attack every night 100% as much as the Lakers need him to.
Yeah.
And I think that's natural, obviously. But
and neither does AD.
Neither
does AD. Yeah. Like AD's tired too, like by the end. So
yeah,
really not too much surprising last night, except for me. The Suns fan got surprised that the Suns lost. But anyway, let's get into this mock draft because it'll probably take a while.
It probably will take a while. I think we'll get through the first few picks pretty quickly, but as we start to get in, it'll probably start to pile up. We will probably do some trades as we see fit. Again, we're trying to make this somewhat as accurate as possible. But when it comes to your feet, eBay's got your back, because with eBay's authenticity guarantee, real experts are checking your sneakers, every stitch down to the sole. Me personally, I'm a big fan of a classic Air Force, or maybe a nice suede or leather boot, but whatever it is that you're adding to the lineup next, head to eBay. From the drop to your doorstep, eBay does not play with your sneaker game. Just look for that blue check mark. So ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms. Are you tired of the stress and uncertainty that often comes with buying tickets for events? Picture this. You're excited about attending your favorite band's concert or catching the big game, but the ticket buying process leaves you feeling frustrated and unsure. Well, you're not alone, but fear not, because there is a solution. Game Time. Game Time is your go-to destination for hassle-free ticket buying. Say goodbye to the days of uncertainty and hello to last-minute deals, all-inclusive prices, and the confidence of knowing exactly what you're getting. Personally, I've had my fair share of ticket buying nightmares, but since discovering Game Time, it's been smooth sailing. With their user-friendly app, I can easily browse upcoming events in my area, from concerts to playoff games and everything in between. What sets Game Time apart? Well, for starters, they're all about giving you peace of mind with your purchase. You can preview the view from your seat before buying, ensuring there are no unpleasant surprises when you arrive. Plus, their all-in prices mean you'll never be hit with hidden fees at checkout. But here's the kicker. Game Time is obsessed with helping you save money. From last-minute deals to exclusive flash sales, they've got you covered. And with their zone deals, you can score big-time savings by letting Game Time pick the seats for you. So why wait? Take the guesswork out of ticket buying and download the Game Time app today. And to sweeten the deal, you can use the code BLAIDENK for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, so don't miss out on this exclusive offer. Again, that's BLAIDENK, BLAIDENK, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time now for last-minute tickets, lowest prices, and guaranteed satisfaction. Starting off number one overall, I think we're all in agreement that not only should it happen, but the Bears will probably take Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I don't see too much time to spend on this. It's going to be Caleb.
It's been talked about to death. They're taking Caleb Williams. They're taking it.
All right, number two. This is where things have started to kind of shift up a little bit. I've seen a lot of mocks and a lot of projections having the Washington Commanders taking Jaden Daniels at number 2 overall. Do we think that is real, or do we think they're still going Drake May?
I think they're going Drake May.
Yeah, his agent has been on a bit of a rant on Twitter recently where he's like saying, like, we don't want to go to the Commanders, or that's what he's insinuating, right?
Jaden's agent?
Yeah. They're like, he's like, oh, this meeting
so
stinks.
funny.
Like this this organization. I mean, he hasn't said these things, but like he's liked tweets and like tweeted emojis on certain things that makes it sound like he's not really happy with the Commanders. And I kind of think that he was the one leaking all the Commanders stuff in the first place, because like Belichick said, like a lot of the information that comes out at this point in the draft process or at any point before this comes from agents. And things don't really leak until right before the draft. And then you start to get some accurate information coming out. So the fact that Daniels has been linked there all this time kind of makes me think that like his agent was blowing smoke. And this recent turnaround is like him saving face when he realizes that the Commanders aren't like completely in love with just him. And he's like, well, we didn't want to go there anyway. I that's just like the vibe I pick up from the situation. I think no one knows what the Washington Commanders want to do, which makes me think it's May, because May has the best tape. If we don't know who it is, if we don't know that they like have a special liking for Daniels, it's probably just still May.
It's probably just still May. I would lean May too. That's kind of my thing. And especially like anytime we see the quarterback pitched like kind of randomly, it feels like I'm never wanting to buy that stuff until it actually happens.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
we've seen this every year. Will Levis,
we've been saying
year,
it all draft cycle, right?
I know,
like,
yeah.
It's just starting to like seemingly start to come true. I feel like you're seeing some of the cracks in the Jaden Daniels to Washington theory start to show through with some of the behavior from his agent. So I think it'll be May. I do.
All right. So we're in agreement there. Drake May at number 2 to the Commanders. Number 3, I think we all would take Marvin Harrison Jr. here to the Patriots. Could they take Daniels?
They could. They could also trade back. They said they're open for business. They could take one of the receivers. This is when the draft really, like, I lose all charting. Like, I at least know that the Commanders are staying and taking a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
This, I feel like they might be in the market for a trade back, just because they've openly said that they're shopping the pick. And I just don't think we know where Jaden Daniels' draft stock is. Maybe they want to take him number 3. Maybe they don't. But there's got to be some team that's willing to trade up. There's the Vikings and the Raiders and the Broncos all picking right next to each other. And like none of them have a quarterback. So I have to think like one of those teams is going to be aggressive and make a move up. It's just, will the Patriots be a team to oblige, or will they take a quarterback themselves because they also need one?
Yeah.
Or will they?
The fact that they would be open to trading back makes me think that they don't want Daniels at 3, because if they did, they would just take him, right?
Yeah, but they could be lying, right? Like they could say, like, "Oh, we're open for business. We're open for business." But it sounds like they like May the most.
Why would they lie about that?
I don't know. I guess I don't know.
Why would I lie?
Yeah, I think they probably won't just pick Marvin Harrison straight up. That would be my guess.
I kind of get that sense as well.
This is complete speculation. I have not seen anything like you saw with your Commanders thing and the Daniels stuff. Like that seems like a very, I see the vision there. I have no vision with exactly what the Patriots are doing. My guess is that if they can get somebody to pay the price for a quarterback at 3, they'd rather have like that value, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like a wide receiver, even as good as Marvin Harrison at 3 is solid, but really it's like how much you'd pay to have a quarterback at 3, it's even more. So if the Giants are like saying number 3 is a quarterback pick for us, it's more valuable to them. And they're not so married to Marvin Harrison Jr. that they're not willing to take that surplus, if that makes sense. The thing is, I actually don't know if anybody is going to trade up for 3 for Daniels. Would it shock you at all if the answer was for McCarthy? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. The only thing I can think of is like, eventually these teams are going to start to get impatient, because I believe that the Vikings and the Raiders and the Broncos like would all be down. They'd all be down. And eventually it's going to get to the point where like, okay, there's 2 quarterbacks left and there's 3 of us. So someone's going to have to trade. Like the Raiders might have to trade. They're the lowest. So will it be like, let's just get to 3? Like, let's just get to 3. We'll know for a fact we get the guy that we want. Like, no one's going to trade ahead of us. Like, it's going to be a steep price. It sucks. But if any of those 3 believe in one of these quarterbacks, I think it could happen. So that's kind of where I lean with this New England pick, is they trade back with one of those 3 teams. My guess would probably be,
I'm trying to think about which team would be the most desperate. Like, to me,
maybe
Minnesota,
the Raiders for Daniels. Like
I feel like it's not going to be Minnesota. Like, I know they have the 2 first rounders, but I don't think it's going to be Minnesota, because like I think they could live in a world where if they don't get their guy, they're okay.
I could maybe see that as well, just because they have no draft picks. Like they traded all their day 2 picks away. They've got the 2 in the first round, but if they trade that 23 overall pick, they'd take JJ or Daniels, and then they wouldn't pick again until like the hundreds. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know how inclined they would be to move
You're
up.
not getting a lot. You wouldn't get a lot of value out of that draft, especially if those guys don't pan out, which like,
but I guess they don't need that much, because
Minnesota is probably, they're the best landing spot, like, of any team to get Daniels or McCarthy. That would be the ideal, place to go. I could see Denver being pretty desperate. Like, I could just see like Sean Payton being like, dog, please get me a quarterback. But maybe he also doesn't want to go through like a full rebuild. I don't know.
I don't know either. I think. What are we thinking?
We have to do something. We have to do something on the clock.
How about the Raiders move up for Daniels?
The Raiders move up for Daniels to 3. Mm-hmm. What do they give up?
I don't know. Just make something.
Make something up.
I don't know off the top of my head what it would
be. It's not going to make a difference. We're doing the first round.
Yeah.
I guess that's true.
Just put them in the right spots. So they gave up the first next year, and that's about it.
Maybe I don't know. I think the price for them would be 2 first plus.
Okay, I'll just do a first. I'll do 13 and a 1 next year.
Yeah, I think it would also be another pick on top of that. Honestly, 1 and a second seems about right.
Okay,
but it could be even more. But that's just like
I'll do 1, and I'll do 2 next year.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So the Raiders are on the clock. They're gonna take Daniels now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where is he? There he is. All right. That brings us to the Arizona Cardinals.
Could it be they could trade back? But obviously the Raiders just made that move, so maybe the onus is a little bit off now, and teams can wait a little bit. I could see him just standing and picking Marv, honestly.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that, you've got Kyler.
And they have so much draft capital. Like, they have the 2 firsts because of the Texans pick last year, or the Texans trade last year. So it's like, they can trade back again, but it's like, how many picks in this draft do you really need?
They would just take Marv.
Yeah, he's the number 1 player on the board. So
I think McCarthy's going to go in the first round. But I also remember last year, it's like, well, someone's going to have to move up for Levis like very soon. And then it's like, well, he just falls out of the first entirely,
Yeah.
And I kind of think the idea that everyone's going to get so scared of missing out on a quarterback and not having a great quarterback option that they're going to have to draft McCarthy at 4. I don't think that's true. I think that teams are willing to be like, the gap here is just too big, even though it might leave us with a problem at quarterback. And Levis, we didn't even dislike as a prospect. I thought Levis at 33 or 34, I forget exactly where, was really good value. So I think they'd go Marv here. And the more I think about it, the more I like the Raiders as the trade up team. Because they just kind of do aggressive stuff like that, and the connection to ASU there.
They've got Devontae, and it's like, if they don't take a quarterback, like, would Devontae just demand a trade? Like how could you sell
Yeah.
that to him and some of the
Raiders
stars
aren't
on your
the Raiders aren't a
roster?
terrible landing spot. Yeah, like they've got some, they've got Devontae. How you feel about Mayer is, up for
They have
discussion.
How about Myers? That's probably your second
Jacoby.
star.
I always forget they have Jacoby Myers.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's a good number 2, and they've got Colton on the offensive line, so it's like it's not the worst place you could go probably.
And they got Max Crosby. I know he's on defense, but like he's just such a superstar that like you've got a guy like that, and maybe I don't know. You got to win games eventually. You got Antonio Pierce. Like, I don't think they're going to be in total. They might be in rebuild mode, but they've kind of been in rebuild mode, So
Right.
I don't know. I think a trade up would definitely make sense for them. But the Chargers at number 5 are interesting.
I think they have to go receiver. I think they like. I know I've seen Joe Altmach to them, but like, you've got Neighbors, you got a Doomsday, you got Bowers, and I think you have to make a choice from those guys. I really do.
I really think Harbaugh could take Alt.
I don't disagree with you.
I really think that he could.
But it feels that would be the most, like, Chargers fans are so pissed off at that pick.
Yeah, but you wanted Harbaugh, didn't you? Like the whole MO with a Harbaugh team is he's going to run it when he can. And that's going to be his primary way to win.
And they're going to take...
and then Herbert's going to be like the closer, and he's going to be, for shootouts. But if they can run the ball all game, they'll run the ball all game. And I would also say...
no weapons.
But I would also say Herbert is good enough that they might Aaron Rodgers him and say, like, look, we're going to get you second-round weapons, and you're going to make them look like first-round weapons. And Alt is... you don't kind of have that effect on all. I really think it could be.
I have to disagree.
Yes. You think
the Rodgers second round point, Theo? They were good players, though.
Well, yeah, they were good players, but Devontae was like
Adams.
He was ass when they drafted him, though. Like,
yeah, but it wasn't
totally
Rodgers
garbage.
who made him amazing. Like, dude, that was like he was.
But when you have a great quarterback, it creates an environment where the wide receivers can hit their potential. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they didn't become great players on their own. I'm just saying that because Rodgers was there, the offensive infrastructure was such that when you added a player like, but I guess that didn't happen with Johnston.
Clearly, this doesn't work for him.
Well, Johnston is ass. Like you just said, Devontae was an all-pro player. Like the Packers drafted guys with a good ceiling. It's not my fault that the Chargers drafted the one wide receiver where we're like, yeah, this guy's clearly not a first round.
I'm just saying. I think they didn't give him first round receivers, sure, but like he had really great receivers. They just really hit on their second round.
They did. Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, James Jones. Was he second round? Or was
they
he
just happen to hit on every late round, like day 2, day 3 wide receiver pick.
They did.
That's
but
crazy, though.
They hit them in the second round is crazy. The Packers
I just
second
feel
round
like
receiver is crazy.
I just cannot imagine you go into next year and your number one wide receiver is what, Josh Palmer? Like that can't be real. Like that can't happen.
Yeah, but there's other rounds in the draft. Like, what if they go into it and instead of what if it's Jermaine Burton and like Ladd McConkey? I don't know. Like,
you think Ladd's falling to 38 or 37?
Yes, dude. Ladd is not going to go that fucking high. I'm telling you guys, he is not going to go that high. I like 38. He might go 38. Like that. That's like early second round. But like this idea that there's he's gonna fall to 38. It's like he might get taken there. All right, he's a good slot receiver. But let's not act like he's gonna go like 15th and could fall to 38 like in a long shot scenario.
I don't think he'd go to 15th, but I mean, there's a few teams at the back of the first round, and a few teams before the Chargers at the start of the second round that could very easily take him.
I think that wide receiver is a fantasy, like it's going to be way more spread out than people think in this draft. I feel like at the top of the second round, it's like Leggett, and Coleman and Worthy and McConkey, like they're all going to be the first 5 picks of the second round. It's like they're just receivers. They're more famous than the other prospects, but I really, I don't know. I don't think it's I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying. Well, let's get back to number 5 overall.
Number
we can
5.
go receiver. We can go receiver if I'm outvoted. But I just really think it would be a hardball thing to do to take alt or trade back. But
Matt, what would you do here, or what do you think would happen here?
I have no idea. Like the whole offensive line is the most important. Actually, can I get an offensive line as the most important position group takeoff? I think it's because it's 5 guys.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like a big part of it, honestly. Like, okay, it's quarterback and then it's offensive line. And it's like, because they don't rely on the other position groups. Like, I guess kind of. I just think it's the most dudes. Like, if I have my offensive line locked up, that's like half my offensive players right there. It's easier to make a good receiver group because I need like 2 guys before it goes from like terrible to pretty solid. I can't do that with my offensive line. Regardless, I think they end up going receiver.
Okay. You think they stay? They don't trade back? They're like neighbors. It is.
Yeah, probably. Okay. I mean,
I can live with that.
The receiver group is a disaster right now, and they had the option to move off of several guys. Like we went into this offseason saying you have Bosa, you have Khalil Mack, you have Mike Williams, and you have Keenan Allen.
Yep.
And they chose to move off of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. To me, that signals that they feel like they're getting a really high-end receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that just as easily. I think all nothing the Chargers do on draft night will surprise me. I think, but
yeah, I 100% agree.
I'm down to mock neighbors to them and say that's very
neighbors.
Possible. So,
okay, neighbors it is. So now we're at number 6 to the Giants. Does that mean the Giants are taking Rome?
I mean, JJ is there. But we've kind of decided on the JJ might fall thing. I mean, they asked Joe Schoen, I can never remember his last name, if he was interested in taking a quarterback at 6, and he essentially said no. He was like, we like not Tyrod's not there anymore. We like Locke. We gave him a contract. Like Daniel Jones, we gave him a contract. We feel good about our quarterback room right now, and we don't anticipate taking one, is basically what he said. I'm paraphrasing. But that kind of made me, like, he said it so just, he wasn't like, well, we'll measure all areas of the board and see what happens. He was like, yeah, we're just not that interested in taking quarterback, which makes me think it's probably wide receiver. So I'm down to take Rome for them, even though JJ could be an option.
Matt?
I kind of have a vision here.
Oh.
I think Rome goes at 6, right? Like, you need a weapon desperately. Okay. Rome's a great pick, right? Mm-hmm. You go to 7. If I'm the Titans, I'm probably just going to take alt and take my home run, right? That's an easy one.
I agree.
You get to 8. And I haven't really heard a ton of Latu at 8. And I feel like the gap on a few picks is not that big of a give up anymore, because we're sort of past the locked in blue chip guys outside of Bowers, who the Falcons definitely won't take. And I think they're the ones who end up trading down just a handful of picks to a team.
Could it be to the Vikings? And then
it could be, because then the Vikings, I think it's going to be either to the Vikings or the Broncos, because both of those places are McCarthy landing spots. And if the Broncos have any serious interest in McCarthy, they have to move up. They know they can't just wait, because they probably should feel like Minnesota is going to just take him at 11 if they let that happen.
Yeah.
So it just depends on, who do you think wants a quarterback more, the Vikings or the Broncos?
I think the Vikings would.
And the Vikings would go,
because I think the Vikings have that infrastructure where if they add JJ, like JJ could reach his full potential like quickly. Like, he's throwing to he's throwing to Jefferson, he's got all these, he's throwing to Addison. Like, if you draft JJ, he could become whatever you have in your head is like the ceiling of JJ. Like he could become that pretty much instantly. And the Broncos like are just not in a place where their roster is like that.
But do you think that Denver thinks that, like, last year the Panthers traded up for the number 1 overall pick and they gave up their number 1 wide receiver, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that teams think like that. Or where they just think that their ass. Well, we shouldn't we don't want McCarthy because we can't develop him because we suck so horribly. Like they just aren't.
That's a good point.
That.
No one in the NFL is like these are all like ultra competitive dudes. Like no one's out here like.
I mean, we had
suck.
the Patriots trade back instead of taking Daniels, and it's like we need to build out our roster. It's like common sense.
The Patriots have so many needs, like.
And maybe Sean Payton is sitting there saying like, I'm smarter than everybody. I'm the quarterback guru. I've got Stidham. I don't need any of these. I got Stidham and I got Bo Nix in round 2.
As a Panthers fan, I would love to watch Sean Payton do that.
I think he might. I just think like with everything the Vikings,
I'm just
and the messaging of the Vikings, like I don't know if this is true for Denver. I've heard like no news about Denver. Like, has Sean Payton said anything this draft season? Has Patton said a single thing? I feel like KOC gets asked about these quarterbacks every day, and Kwesi, and they're like, yeah, we're probably going to move up. Like there's just been so much messaging, and they already made that trade to get the 23 overall pick. Like they're going to be active.
Well, here's the thing.
I like the Falcons trading down with the Vikings here. If
you're moving from 11 to 8, do you think they have to give up 11 and 23?
No, I don't think they'd have to give up 23 at all. I think it would look a little, I think they'd keep that 23 overall pick, and maybe that's a treat for Flores. But I think we should pull the trigger on this and say the Vikings trade up with Atlanta.
Vikings trade up. Okay, so let's backtrack. 6 is Rome to the Giants.
Mm-hmm. 7's alt. 8. We'll say for a second, but we're not super strongly opinionated on how much these teams are giving up. Just the trade itself. I can get down with that.
So 11 and what? We could do the 3rd next year. Whatever.
Whichever works.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. All right. So now the Vikings are on the clock at 8, and they're taking McCarthy.
JJ.
Okay. All right.
So this is like our mock bracket for March Madness. It's like we got to pick just the right amount of upsets. I feel like we're at a good place right now. It's like, I think we're a little high on where these quarterbacks are going to get taken, but I don't know. I'm always. I don't think we're high. I usually see it like 1, 2, 3, 4.
I know. I see that too, but I'm just like, I just don't know if McCarthy's going to go in the top 10. I don't know if Daniels is going to, like, I could very easily see a world where those guys both fall, but
I would say that, like, I definitely think we only overestimate how many quarterbacks are going to get taken early, but it doesn't never happen where it's 1, 2, 3, and then one around like the 8 to 12 range.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, that's 2021, for instance, right?
Yeah. And I just think they like, there's just that stretch, the Vikings, Broncos, Raiders stretch. It's like I just don't know how they get past that at the very least. So it's probably not going to be like a massive Levis type fall. And Daniels is probably like a better prospect than Levis is, right? Like I'm not the hugest on
probably
Daniels,
agree.
I'm willing to bet that that's what the league thinks.
I would say it's close. It's close for me, I think, but I would probably agree slightly.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's neither here or there. At number 9, we have the Bears. They've already taken Caleb. Bowers is here if they wanted to do that, but they already have Kmet. I don't think
they'll take Bowers. I think they would take probably Dallas Turner or Latu. Maybe a left tackle. Maybe, but
like Fashanu or Fuaga here?
Maybe. I don't think so, though. It's probably more likely that they take the best defensive player, because I don't think a single defensive player is gone. So it just depends on like trying to decipher who that is for them. It could be Byron Murphy. We've heard that like he is a sneaky pick for the top 10. then there's Newton, Latu, and Dallas Turner. So it's like which one seems the most Bearsy?
They already spent a lot interior defensive line last
year, yeah.
And it's the same guys, making the picks. Turner is probably the boring pick, but it definitely feels like he's the most people's defensive player one, or maybe the Bears from what I've heard. But if there was some other big piece of intel saying otherwise, I'd believe it.
Yeah, I think Turner is, a bit more scheme versatile, and I think that Eberflus kind of keeps it simple and like wants his guys playing as fast as possible. I like Turner's fit a little bit more with like Raheem Morris, and like maybe I think Latu's the better player and could potentially be the scheme fit for Chicago a little bit more. Just like keep it simple. You're rushing off the edge. Like Montez Sweat ain't dropping into coverage, and neither is their other end. So I think Latu's stock could be a bit higher than it seems. Like he's really, really good. If I haven't heard a peep about his medicals, like the combine came and went and no one said anything about it. So I might go Latu here, but I could see it in a number of different directions, including Byron Murphy. I don't know, but
if it were me, I would probably go Latu, just because I feel like.
Let's do that then. I mean, it's not impossible to think that he could go high.
Yeah. Okay, Latu it is then.
Maybe the medicals is horrifying, but maybe they're not.
Maybe it's not. And that means Brock Bowers falls to 10 for the New York Jets. And that's probably exactly what they're hoping for. Unless you guys think otherwise.
I don't think it's a guarantee he goes at 10.
I was thinking I rewatched Brock Bowers the other day, and I still really like him. But I was thinking about all the things that Georgia does to get him involved. He is in the backfield. He is a receiving threat on RPOs a lot, and like a yak threat. He feels like a Shanahan weapon. And there's not one in particular that it is a direct comparison to. He's not a blocker like Kittle. Most people compare him to Kittle. I don't think he's like necessarily like Kittle. He's just similar in the sense like he would be very useful to Kyle Shanahan because he's such a threat with the ball in his hands and he's so good catching over the middle of the field. But Georgia really used him in a way where like they kind of schemed a lot of production for him, which is fine. Like he's really good. That's why they did it. But I just wonder if like the Jets want to go through that hassle of that kind of tweaking their offense that much for a tight end, I guess is what I want to say. I feel like Bowers would be an ideal like LaFleur guy or someone in that offense. And like Rodgers didn't like that offense. He wants to run pure West Coast stuff. I do wonder if the Jets and Bowers is the greatest scheme fit. They need a tight end. They need another weapon. But I just feel like Bowers he's hardly even a tight end, right? He's like an offensive thing. Like there's the number 4, their normal tight end. There's 2 wide receivers. And then he's kind of lined up as almost a wild card. I just don't know if Rodgers and Hackett and the Jets like will look at that and say like, this is our missing piece. But he is one of the best players available, if not the best player available. But I would almost look at like a Byron Murphy here. I think that could make a lot of sense.
I think I could see that as well. The thing is that I'd feel like they would be wrong not to take Bowers, right?
Yeah.
Like they'd be wrong not to get him and work him into the offense. That would be the incorrect choice. But I think your logic isn't crazy. And I disagree in general with the whole like positional value tight end conversation that's been had recently. It honestly makes me like really mad because it's just such a cop out because every single person who is talking about that is referencing Bowers, but then all of them are like, yeah, but Bowers is the exception. It's like, okay, well then what do we have in this conversation for? It feels like to me, if Bowers ends up being good, it's like, oh yeah, well, he was the exception. That Bowers, well, that doesn't make the rule. And if he's bad, it's going to be like, I told you so. And this is why you don't take tight ends high. That's the narrative I see coming forward. But I think Murphy makes a lot of sense.
Murphy wouldn't be a bad pick. I guess like if they did have a weakness on their defense, it's probably Kinlaw.
Yeah. And Murphy
So-
really is, he could be ridiculous. He really could be. Like when you watch him crawl on the ground and then pop back up and make tackles, like he is like I like Newton a little bit more than him. I think he's more of a sure thing, but like Byron is kind of capable of the incredible. And you put him in that defense, like
I
next
think it
to
would be a
Quinnen,
pretty. I think it'd be a pretty good fit for that defense.
he
It would be.
it would be very, very scary. So I think Byron, and there's the who said it? I think it was Daniel Jeremiah that was like, watch out for Byron Murphy in the top 10. And last year he had the Texans trading up for Will Anderson. So I don't know. I feel like some plugged in people have kind of been insinuating that like Byron Murphy could go top 10, and maybe this is the spot.
Okay. Matt, are you bought into that?
Yeah, I think it could make sense.
Okay. Byron Murphy at 10 then. Wow. Who would have thought? That brings us to Atlanta. Now, I want to say this. I was talking to some people, and they've been listening to some of the Atlanta Falcons beat reporters, and all the mock drafts have them taking Dallas Turner.
Mhm.
But all the beat reporters keep saying that the Falcons are in love with Arnold.
Sure. We can give him Arnold. I do think Arnold has a shot to be the. If the beat reporters are saying it, they're probably more plugged in than like people who were like,
Yeah,
oh,
it could have been Mitchell,
Dallas
but
Turner
like
is from
they're
the
in love
South.
with one of the corners. Yeah, like
yeah, I could see it. They do really need an edge, though. They do
Yeah,
really,
that's
really
what
need
I-
On the cornerback.
yeah, they do.
Yeah,
so
that's
they
true.
need both. They need both, but it's like we've been thinking edge this whole time because again, they haven't had a good pass rusher in like 8 years. But
No, I agree. I mean, I think edge is totally possible, but if there's one thing I love, it's seeing a take that everybody's on. Like the Falcons will draft an edge, and then there's something
Yeah.
that like maybe is a 45% chance of happening instead of the 55% chance. And like, yes, the other thing is more
Right.
likely, but there's something else that is possible that people aren't giving enough credit to. Like, I think those are always good opportunities to kind of make a weird pick. So I'm fine with letting Dallas Turner fall another pick and taking Arnold here, but maybe that's silly.
I don't think it is
yeah.
silly. I just had to. I really don't remember which corner it was, but I think it was Arnold. And I probably should have like tried to find it.
I bet it's Arnold. I think Arnold has a really good shot to be the first corner off the board. He's like this crazy confident person. Like he's big, he tackles, like his hips are pretty smooth. There are some issues with him, but he played in the SEC as opposed to Mitchell, who played in like the MAC. Like I just think when you
I would
look
take
at
Arnold over Mitchell. I would, but
when you look at it, I do think that Arnold has the makeup of a potential cornerback one off the board.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm down for
and
that.
I know a lot of people have been a little bit lower on Wiggins because of the like weight, which I think is like completely ridiculous. I saw someone compare him to who was the really small corner last year?
Forbes.
Forbes, Emmanuel Forbes. I saw someone.
Oh yeah,
compare
he's
him
a
to
lot better
I'm
than
like,
Forbes.
I'm like, yeah, it's like it's night and day. So we'll take Arnold here at 11 for Atlanta. And then moving to 12, Denver.
Man,
They have to do something. They have to do something.
maybe
But-
Peyton could take Bowers. I could see that.
Yeah, I think that
Jimmy
would be
Graham,
interesting.
like Jimmy Graham, he kind of found a role for as a former basketball player, and was he a wide receiver? Was he a tight end? We didn't know at
Yeah.
contract time, so he's got a history of like utilizing a player like that. Jimmy Graham and Bowers aren't really similar, but they're similar in that like
no,
they're
Jimmy Graham was like
wide
6'8", so
right. They're not similar in how they win, but they're similar in terms of like where they line up. And I assume that Sean Payton is a great play caller. Like he really is a great offensive mind. So I could see this being a Bowers location, but I could also see them saying like, who's just the best defensive player left on the board and go in that direction as well.
Yeah, I don't know if they would necessarily need a corner, but I could see Turner here. I could see.
True, if Dallas fell, I could see that as well.
They don't really have like. I'm trying to think who their top pass rusher is right now.
Probably Zach Allen. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that it would come down to maybe Dallas or Bowers.
All right, Matt, you're the tiebreaker here.
I have no idea. I'd say probably Turner.
I can agree with that.
Dallas Turner it is at number 12. So the Patriots, we had trade back to number 13.
Mm-hmm.
Now they sit here. I feel like at this point, Bowers has to go. Like at this, just best player available. But I guess
don't think there's any way that I do believe there's some chance that Bowers falls because he's a tight end.
I agree. I think they could take an offensive lineman here. The offensive line class this year is ridiculous. And right now, only Alt is gone. There's Fautanu, there's Fuaga, there's Fashanu, there's Latham, there is Mims, who's incredible. I think Graham Barton is an extremely good center, like interior prospect. Honestly, with the way that I do think that it's possible that they look at a guy like, I don't know, Newton on the defensive line or an offensive lineman and say like, look, the jack of all trades tight end might have to wait.
Yeah. I also wouldn't. There just seems like there's a lot of guys like no matter how you play out the first 13 picks, you're sitting at pick 14 with, well, how is this guy not gone, or how is not more of this position gone? So it feels like you can't possibly win. If I were
they
the
also
Patriots,
pick at 34, so those group of receivers that we talked about earlier, they'll probably be available to them. So
I think there's a real chance that is Penix, or it is Penix as in a trade up in the first. And unless they are rolling with like straight up no quarterback option, they're gonna have to find like a weapon, some receivers, which they haven't really done. That right now their offense has feels like very limited ways to win. So if I were the Patriots and I were trying to build out a situation for a quarterback, which even if they don't like Penix, they need to start working on now, I would say that Bowers is a great start. I think they would go Brock.
Okay.
I think it's so hard for them to pass up on this. Their best receiver, I mean, they've got Juju and Kendrick Bourne, and
I mean, if they don't go quarterback in this class, like let's say they don't go Nix and they don't go Penix, because that's who we have less. Like, what would their plan be?
I don't know.
It would be one of the worst week one plans.
I mean, they'd probably have to trade for somebody. They'd probably have to say like
Fields,
or they'd have to watch the.
Or they got Brissett back, right? That's their.
They do have Brissett.
That would be that would probably be their option.
I think,
which isn't a horrible option. They could also they could watch the UFL with great interest and pick up whoever wins MVP there.
Matt Corral, bring him back, baby.
But I mean, I agree. Their weapons are horrific. I'm selfishly trying to hold out on on anybody taking Bowers, because I want him to go to Steichen and Richardson to fix later.
Yeah,
God.
It may not work out that way.
See, but that's a dangerous thing to do in mock drafts, where it's like, well, this fit makes sense that this player's falling there, but that's not how it works.
No, it's not.
The real
so
world.
we got to hurry up anyway. So let's nab Bowers to the Patriots and a trade back. I can
Bowers to the Patriots, and then
although what I just said is probably the argument for the Patriots not trading back and just taking Daniels at 3, which I'm sure I know a lot of Patriots.
Well, they said they wanted to trade back, so what's it to them? Maybe they look at Brissett and say like, this guy is better than Jaden Daniels. Like who knows what goes on in teams' heads. They might love Brissett. Who knows? But
Jacoby,
the Saints. This should be easy. Just take a tackle, right?
Yeah.
Who do we want to take here? Fuaga, Fashanu?
I would probably go Barley Fashanu. I don't know. I like Fatanu the best, so maybe he would go. But in terms of
I
like
give them
ceiling and like current pass pro upside or like current pass pro upside, I think that Fashanu might be the best. I don't know.
which one of those guys would you say is like the nastiest? Which one of those guys is like
Definitely
he's a
Fatanu.
mauler?
Definitely
All right.
Fatanu. And but
Okay, then they
Fuaga might
probably-
be the
But-
best.
but-
Fuaga is probably the biggest mauler of them all.
I like.
Then
Fuaga.
that's who they'd probably go, I'd guess, because they took Penning.
And they're not taking
really
They're not taking Fatanu. He's the smallest. He's only like 6'4". The other guys are 6'6".
Yeah, there's another big guy. He's a maul. Yeah, I think that's who they go. But
Yeah,
based
they're
off
not-
their other tackle pick, which was Penning.
Or maybe they want to
They-
have
they-
contradicting tackles. One guy's really nice. He's the friendly giant, and then they've got the evil mauler
I mean-
on the
Well,
other
ra-
side.
We could go Fuaga if we think that's the like just type of player that the Saints enjoy, which it kind of is. I mean, Fuaga is a
But-
crazy explosive athlete. Like he's
Yeah.
crazy pulling. He's big. He's got that mean streak. I don't think he is as good like with subtle redirects, and I don't think like he is a bit heavy for a tackle and might be better out inside to guard. Otherwise, these speedy guys could win around
They
his
said
outside
that about
shoulder.
they said that about DeJuan Jones. Don't listen to him, man.
Yeah, I guess.
Dwan Jones is
you know-
not exactly like a proven commodity.
TJ Watt had
knows?
0 sacks against him. That's all I'm saying.
Fuaga and
I,
Fuaga and DeJuan Jones are not necessarily
No.
crazy similar to me, but maybe I could see teams looking at Fuaga and saying like he's Sewell or something. Like I think that there's particles of that in there where I
Yeah.
could see it. And he's always mocked very high, so I could see Fuaga going ahead of those other people. But I personally like the other two more. It's up to I'll leave it up to you. Having said that. What tackle the Saints go with.
I just think it doesn't matter too much what we like. I think it's what the teams like.
You're
So
trying to get the worst one to the Saints.
yeah, we can give them whatever we like then.
Yeah. So where
But
is
I think I mean I think
It really is a
Fuaga makes-
possibility. It really is
I think
a
Fuaga
possibility.
makes
they're
sense.
actually taking Roman Wilson.
All the evil people are teaming up. But anyway, let's give them Fuaga. Sure, why not?
Yeah,
and move
Fuaga.
on.
All right. 15, the Colts. I know you wanted him to get Bowers. He's not here
Sorry.
at this point. So now what is their next move? Maybe corner?
Yeah, I
think-
also could
I think
see
the-
Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, I think picking between those two guys makes a lot of sense. We learned from their last draft, how much they lean towards picking athletes,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So I think about what positions do they need, and then what guys are super athletic that could go around this pick. And I think the answer is Brian Thomas Jr. And then Quinyon Mitchell. I usually give him Mitchell. But I'm also biased because a Brian Thomas Jr. pick means it's like GG for Alec Pierce. And I just don't like doing that. So
That would
give them-
mean
I give-
GG's for Alec Pierce. You're
Yeah,
tough.
I don't know. Between those two, I haven't heard anything that makes me like have a strong position one way or the other.
I think they would go with Brian Thomas. I think Brian Thomas is going to be a really hot commodity, honestly. Like he's kind of like the Anthony Richardson of wide receiver prospects. Like you're looking at someone who's 6'4", you're looking at someone who runs a 4.3, you're looking at someone who's like very, very fluid. He just doesn't know like route running yet. And I think
Yeah.
I just think that will go very high. I don't know if he ever figures it out. I wasn't like completely in love with the tape. He seemed kind of boom or bust to me, but I think that he's the type of player that a team would love to take a shot on. And he doesn't have the like questions that Adonai Mitchell has about effort, about
Right.
focus, about all these things. So it's like once Brian Thomas Jr. is off the board, like there might not be another wide receiver for a while either. So I just think I think that I think the Bills would love to trade up for him. I think the Colts at number 15 might pick him a little bit too high for that to happen. if we're going with like, oh, he's a really good fit somewhere else, I'd love to mock him somewhere else, but maybe the opportunity just doesn't arise, or maybe the Bills trade way up for him, which would not shock me. It would not shock me, but he is a freak. He's an absolute freak. And
yeah, I mean, he had 17 touchdowns last year at LSU.
And they love it, man. They took Jelani Woods. That's a 10 RAS guy. They took Anthony Richardson. That's a 10 RAS guy. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is up there with. I mean, he's very DK Metcalfy, but a little bit even more fluid. Like he's pretty freaky. So I would go with him. But there are some freakish offensive linemen and corners as well. Like,
yeah, I mean, Wiggins is still here.
Quinion Mitchell is a freak. Nate Wiggins is like one of the fastest corners ever. So.
Yeah. And like if you wanted to take a free guy, like those guys are available to you. If you wanted versatility, maybe you take Cooper.
Yeah, you have a lot of options. I'd say Brian Thomas. I agree.
Yeah, I that probably makes the most sense, and it probably does mean wraps for Michael, or not for Alec Pierce, but he had a good run. He
could always beat Brian Thomas out for the starting job.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
It's just competition in the room. Maybe Michael Pittman gets kicked out.
That'd be so funny.
Or maybe it's Pittman. Maybe it's Pittman Pearson. No, Downs
gets Alec Pierce taking the Josh Downs role is moving me, man.
Nasty work. All right, so we got Brian Thomas to the Colts at 15. Seattle is on the clock here. They could use some help on the interior of their offensive line. There's a couple good center prospects here that we I think like. They got rid of both. They lost 2 safeties this year, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah. So they have quite a few needs. They could also probably use some more help on their defensive line. I know they're getting Uchenna Nwosu back from injury, and Mafe had a good year last year. But maybe you want someone who's a little bit more certified. Newton's available. Jared Verse is available.
There is. They could also trade back. We haven't had a trade back in a while.
Yeah, that's true. Who would be looking to trade up, and for what?
Yeah,
I do think Green Bay could do it for Fautanu. He just seems like their type of guy. I think they could do it.
If you want to heat check on the Packers, go for it. It's your team.
I might heat check on the Packers here and do a trade up, or they might wait a little bit here because there's so many good. We haven't taken that many offensive linemen. I don't know though. I could also see a team like Miami trading up for like Newton.
Yeah,
but that doesn't really sound like it's happening, does it?
Between Miami and Cincinnati, I think one of them has to take Newton. And if Miami's really enamored with, like, we need to replace Wilkins, then they could jump up either to Jacksonville or to Seattle's pick.
I mean, I don't see why it couldn't be Fautanu here. Just the Seahawks straight up. I mean, I think that makes a ton of sense. They
have their offensive coordinator, Grubb. They have the Washington OC. And
I almost wonder if
quite the weapon.
If I was Seattle, I know they have a lot of needs, but I would think like if we could go Fautanu here and then JPP like really does fall out and like of the first, we could go crazy on the phones trying to trade up day 2 and grab both of them and really get over this interior offensive line problem because both those guys are really good. I'd be thinking about it at least. I know that's kind of like a pretty.
Yeah.
I don't see why they couldn't draft Tanu. I mean, he is an absolute. I mean, in the running game, especially in the passing game, he is a little small and like his technique is so wild that sometimes it gets him in trouble. But I mean, when the man gets out and runs, like he is the best. He has the potential to be the best run blocker in the National Football League. Like he has a chance to be the best. Like talk about like a screen out in front of him. Like you put Ken Walker and behind Fautanu, like like Fautanu never misses when he climbs. It's crazy. It's like he is so good at that kind of thing. And I don't know. I think that
would be a great fit.
I think that he would be good.
Okay. Fatanu at 16 to Seattle 17. Do we see a trade up from Miami here?
I don't think so. I think we could just keep going. I think they need a defensive back pretty damn bad, and there's a lot of good ones on the board.
I agree. Jacksonville would need a DB, but if they were to trade back, I think they would still get their guy. Like, who's going to take one between Cincinnati, LA, Pittsburgh?
All of them could.
I guess
those teams could.
Well, I see all of those
Cincinnati.
teams.
Who is Cincinnati's
Cincinnati
cornerback
I
one?
don't-
I'm putting you on the spot. Who's the best corner that Cincinnati's got right now?
It's about their investment. They've spent so much on defensive backs recently, and
What did they spend? They have Cam Taylor-Britt.
They have Cam Taylor.
Battle.
They got Battle recently. The Michigan Dax Hill.
True, I guess they did take him first.
Didn't they take another Michigan defensive back? Am I?
You're
DJ
right.
Turner.
No, you're right.
DJ
that was
Turner.
two different guys.
DJ Turner. Yeah. So
they
they've
got
just
both
spent
of them.
so much, and they have other needs that are like really, really like pretty good. At 18,
Yeah.
I don't think that they would, but then the next two after that, like, yeah, if I were the Jaguars,
I guess the Rams could. I keep having them take.
I mean, on
like,
the PFF
defensive
simulator,
linemen.
whatever you want to say, the Rams have CB as a need, and the Steelers do. But
I guess that's fair.
I don't know.
I think this could be Wiggins, man.
Yeah, at 17.
Yeah,
Wiggins or
I
Mitchell.
think so.
I
I
kind of
know
think
Wiggins
Mitchell.
is.
Wiggins fell out of Peter Schrager's first round, and that kind of scared me because
He's fallen out of a lot of first round mocks recently.
Really? I've
Apparently
only seen
he's
Schrager.
interviewing bad. No.
Yeah, that's what I heard was that. I heard that he was vaping during like a meeting. I don't, and was just generally like
What?
lacked interest. But
So
that's
he's
again like a rumor.
He's gonna be certified then, because he's just like
That's what I thought. I was like, okay, he's a corner who doesn't give a shit, and he just shows up on game day and is lockdown, and like,
yeah, man.
who cares? Like, who cares? But I don't know. The fact that Wiggins fell out of Schrager's first round mock, and I heard that about him. I don't know. Like maybe he would fall, and like Mitchell's pretty spotless. I like Wiggins more, but
Yeah,
I
I like
think
Wiggins
Mitchell
and
might-
Cooper more,
I think I
and
might
Kool-Aid.
have to.
We haven't talked about Kool-Aid either.
But I think we might have to let go and accept like Mitchell's going crazy high.
Yeah.
Forbes went
I
high
agree.
last year, so and we
Yeah.
didn't really like him. That
I
much.
don't hate
Yeah.
Mitchell or anything. I think Mitchell makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Okay. So Mitchell at 17 to Jacksonville. Bang. All right, 18, the Bengals. I would take Newton here.
I would too, but he's falling in the mocks, and I also think like they need a right tackle pretty bad. Do they not?
I've seen a lot of
They
tackle
got,
mocks. I've seen Fashanu taken, or Latham also taken pretty frequently here.
They need more offensive line help. And the thing
I
about
could see
Newton is that
Mims.
like Newton is not like DJ Reader.
No.
They're not
No,
so, like
not the
they're not
same.
the same player at all, Yeah. So it's like Newton is a replacement in the sense that he would be an interior defensive lineman, but in that pretty
And he would be a
exclusively.
good player.
Yeah,
Like,
I
you
think he'd
don't
be a
you
good
don't
player.
need like a player like DJ Reader though. Like I love DJ Reader, but you could like you'd be giving up the size and the run blocking, but you still need interior defensive line help. So I do think Newton's on the table, but I also think like just because he's not like DJ Reader doesn't mean they wouldn't pick him, because they need more pass rush outside of Trey Hendrickson, and
Right.
Newton is a better pass rusher than Reader was. So he could be an upgrade for them in that sense. Like Reader was coming off a bad injury.
Could Verse be on the table?
Verse to me is way too much like Hendrickson, and I just think that he's a power rusher that's very stiff, and I feel like Hendrickson is already kind of that type of guy. I feel like you'd want kind of a differing skill set on the other side. I think Mims is a possibility for them here. I think Newton is a possibility for them here. I think any other offensive lineman honestly is a possibility for them here. I don't know. What do you guys think?
In terms of what they would do, I don't know who is more likely for them, to be completely honest with you.
Right.
I kind of think based on what we've heard, it could be Mims or Fashanu, who hasn't been picked yet, but you'd have to switch him to the right side because God knows Orlando Brown ain't making that switch. And
Heaven
Mims
forbid he has to play right tackle.
And I don't know, Mims is that right tackle. He's a beast. Like he's an upside swing. Like if they say we need to get past the Chiefs,
I think the Bengals are taking a tackle not for the upside swing, but because they're like, our season got blown last year because Burrow got hurt. We have not had a good offensive line since we got him, and now we're paying him all of this money. Who is the most reliable day one out of those three guys? And if I was Cincinnati, or at least what I think they'd be thinking is, give me that guy.
The thing is, like, none of them are that. like Mims could be terrible. He could be hurt all the time.
Yeah, you don't want a guy that can't stay on.
But Fashanu is a little bit raw, and he would be banking the position switch. And Latham isn't necessarily like locked in all the time, and like he is kind of squatty and like maybe could kick inside. Like Mims is just like this. I don't know. I think any of them could be on the table. Like there's not one that's obviously safer than the others. Mims might be the most risky though. There's also Guyton.
Yeah, Mims feels like a risk. Barton's available.
Barton is just not playing tackle.
Yeah.
He's a center, I think.
I think it's Fashanu. And this is not an instance of me having my ear to the streets of Cincinnati. I think Fashanu just has like a high floor because his anchor is so good that he can mess up and lose and still not get beaten that badly. And that's why I think they'd go with him. That's kind of just my gut check. I don't know.
Yeah, he doesn't have the injury concerns that Mims does, and Mims really does have a lot of them. And he got hurt at the combine, and he's like so big and expensive. Like he's so big and explosive that it's like that's kind of the player where you kind of worry about injuries, and it's happening with him consistently. So yeah, maybe there is a lot of risk with Fashanu moving to the right side, but the injury red flag of Mims just might be too great. I could see that being true.
Yeah.
Okay, so we take Fashanu there at 18, and that will wrap up the first half of this mock draft. We'll be back Wednesday, talk some more NBA stuff, with the playoffs going on, of course, and then we'll go ahead and finish out this mock draft. Might as well take it to pick 33 because
we'll take it to pick 33 and maybe a few other things we might think happen in the second round if we don't actually make the picks themselves. But we're taking it to pick 33.
Yeah, we could do some.
We got to take it to pick 33,
And people who don't are of poor moral character. They're
Don't look at my last mock draft.
You had the Panthers trading back into the first round, right?
And here's the thing. I know you didn't have Ladd in your first round. You could have made one young man's day if you had just put together added another 10 seconds.
You got Deontay. What do you need Ladd for?
Oh, brother.
The 4 or 5 All-Pros that he's going to make in his career.
4 or 5 All-Pros.
Yeah, that's way too few.
He will be a dope wide receiver 3.
Come on, man.
Well, thank you all so much for tuning in.
How many fantasy points per game is Ladd McConkey scoring at the peak of his career? I'm going 6.
6 again. What? So you are predicting him to be awful.
6 fantasy points.
He's getting at his peak. He's getting 6 real life points per game. I promise
no
you that.
PPR. No PPR. In PPR, let me say 8.5.
That's not. What are we talking about? His career high fantasy points in a game, 8.5. Nah,
for Ladd.
You're saying the average over a season, right?
Oh, are you saying the average over a season, or
not the most that he ever has in a game? He'll score a touchdown and get 30 yards.
Well, yeah, and I'm not saying his career high. I'm saying his career average. Like, what will he average per game? 8.5, it would be high.
Yeah.
I might move back down to
Okay.
6.
No, you already said 8.5.
8.5.
Well, I thought you guys put up such a big stink about 6 that I was like, maybe.
Really, it should be like 11. No
He is
big
not
deal.
gonna be like that.
He's going for a tutty and 50.
He's too
every game,
nice.
man.
Give me Leggett, man.
Hold on. Now we're talking. Leggett
Hey.
going for.
You know I
They
gotta
gave
get
the
that work
Panthers
in.
2 second-round picks for a reason. I would love Leggett, man. I love him.
You get
He's
Lad
awesome.
and Leggett.
He's so
and
Carolina,
he's a South
too.
Carolina guy, man. That's
He's so Carolina, and he grew up there, and he just has like the accent. He's
Yeah.
He'd be a
Oh,
dope.
his accent's
Panther.
awesome. Absolutely.
You know, I gotta get this work in.
Yeah, it's like so. I've honestly like I want Lad, but I'd be pretty happy, like not upset at all if Lad and Leggett and like even Keon Coleman. Like I think there's a lot of good options.
You're gonna get all 3? That's crazy.
No,
man.
I'm saying any one of them, and I wouldn't be mad at getting 2 of them. I really would
Yeah.
not. I don't think they're going to do that. I think there's almost no chance they do that. But I wouldn't be mad at it.
Wouldn't be mad. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Stay Hot. Again, make sure you tune into the next one where we finish off this.
Oh, that
mock
was
draft.
still the episode. I thought we were just talking.
What do you mean? That's still the episode.
I forgot we were still
I
recording.
didn't end it. I didn't end it, did I?
You didn't end it. You didn't end
I
it.
didn't end it. Until next time, we'll catch you on the flippity flop.